Hello everybody, welcome to my shed here in Southeast San Diego. This is where I do a lot of kind of R&D and creative, and we're here today to talk about the Mashup. So we officially declared the Mashup complete and done one day at the surf ranch. Rob and I had gone through about 4 or 5 versions, both of us surfing it in different conditions in the ocean, a whole bunch. And then one day, kind of a random last minute trip, we ended up at the surf ranch with Kelly last summer. It was a blazing hot day, but we ended up there and had a great time surfing up there. And there were plenty and tons of waves for all of us, including Kelly. He hopped on it, and he was mostly working that day, but he did surf quite a bit too. But Rob and I just surfed a bunch and both had a ton of waves on the Mashup, had a great time. And from a selfish shaper standpoint, I kept watching what Rob was riding. I was like, hopefully he keeps taking out the Mashup. But he did take out, for his first wave of the day, a 9, 6, or 10 foot soft top, and laid down in the inside left barrel section and got completely barreled, laying on his back, coffin style. But then the rest of the day he spent on the Mashup. And there are a lot of people who agree with me that that's one of the most pleasant things to watch, is Rob on a board that he really likes, doing churns, and so there's just complete fluidity, complete connectedness in his churns, and there is no wasted movement when he's surfing. So going into that day at the surf ranch, we had surfed it a bunch of times in the ocean and had a lot of confidence in it and a lot of different variations, different conditions of surf. But then we go into that day where we're surfing perfect waves, and it works really well and has unbelievable performance. Just how we wanted it was very reassuring. It works really well in bad surf, works really well in great surf, perfect surf, and it's a size that you would ride in between your Seaside and your Dominator. So me personally, I ride a 5'11 Dominator and I ride a 5'7 Seaside. And for the Mashup, I ride a 5'9, and they're all about 34 liters. So you got the Seaside, the Dominator, and you get your Mashup right in between. So, design, surfboard design. All the things that have gone into this surfboard are, there's a lot of little nooks and crannies. There's a lot of little refinements and nuance to it. There's some that are real obvious and hit you over the head, like this tapered step on the tail, and that's there to decrease some of the rail volume, the clunkiness of a full rail, because these boards are trying to hide as much foam for paddleability and getting up to planing as fast as possible. I say it a lot that one of the most overlooked features and designs, or I should say one of the most overlooked elements to surfing, is the paddle speed that you can have as an individual on the board that you're on. If you're not paddling fast, you're going to be missing waves, you're going to be out of position, and you're going to be giving up waves to other people. So there's a ton of volume here underneath your belly, underneath your chest, and a lot of that is the Seaside DNA, including the overall outline towards the nose. So he basically came to me and said, how do you sprinkle in some shortboardability into what he'd already figured out with the Seaside? Now moving into the bread and butter of what makes a surfboard work how we want it to is going to always be the relationship of the rocker, nose and tail rocker, which is the curve of the board from the nose and tail down through the belly of the board, and that combination of that rocker element with the fin placement. The fin placement and rocker marriage is something that is constantly being refined. However, I have found with the Dominator, even the FRK, and this board, the Mashup, there is a set formula that's starting to really be universal. And there are some subtle tweaks, but for the most part, we got a formula here that's working out really well, especially with the predictability of the way the board's going to perform as a quad and or a thruster. The bottom contour is a double barrel, quite aggressive, set down within a concave. So that means that the rails are sitting deeper, lower into the water than the center. So there's a concave in here, and then within the concave, there's a double barrel concave that splits into a V and that means that the center is higher than the rail. And that design element is meant to allow for the water to be on one side of the board, on the bottom of the board as you're going into a turn, and then the water and forgiveness of the V allows you to tip that board easier, making the sensation hopefully feel like that the board is actually narrower, feels narrower than it actually is. The outline of the board from the nose and the tail is all balanced so that there's no real significant swing weight or tail width. The tail creates a nice sharp pivot point, just gives that great break, that great pivot point to hold in through turns. The rail is a very refined rail, very drop down, especially between your feet. You got a really low apex, but very elliptical, very clean and tucked, well tucked bottom edge here. The edge starts kicking in real aggressively out the tail. Before that though, it's really soft and real buttery, real forgiving, so that when you're going down the line, you get these wider boards hung up in a hollow section. You can come down and this rail will be real forgiving so that you can drop back down into the wave without catching a rail. If this was real sharp, it would create a sensitive sort of potential for catching a rail. So that's real nice. And then that softness of the rail continues all the way up through the nose and even gets softer all the way up through the tip. So what we've landed on here is all the best things of the Seaside, all the best things of the Dominator, with a little sprinkling of Spitfire in here. Is something that I'm very proud of.
Like this has like that little fish feel to it. So you can get this thing, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, as if it was matched up with two magics, put into one wand, given to the right wizard. Might take you to Hogwarts and back, who knows?